Good evening and welcome to a special edition of Behind the News. I'm Bob Smith. Tonight we take a look at how a tornado can wreak havoc in southern Ontario, an area that's considered the tornado capital of Canada. On April 20th, disaster struck in the Williamford and Arthur areas. For some, the tornado hit with an eerie sense of deja vu. On May 31st, 1985, a horrific tornado touched down in parts of southern Ontario. That report first, then Brian Higgins meets up with those who are picking up the pieces all over again.
A cluster of tornadoes cut a 100-kilometer swath through south-central Ontario, hitting communities from Barrie to Owen Sound. 12 people are reported dead, including 4 children and more than 300 injured. An estimated 500 people were left homeless. Adjusters pegged the damage in the neighborhood of $150 million. Judy Eden's farm near Arthur was hit. Her house received damage, the family's barn destroyed.
I didn't know if I wanted to move back or not because I kept thinking, well, it could come again, it could come again. But, if you have that attitude, you'd be hysterical all your life.
Judy and Bruce Eden have been down this road before. That was their farm in the news reports from 1985. 11 years later, it has happened again. Barn destroyed and house damaged. 50 head of cattle are being kept on a neighbor's farm as they pick up the pieces for a second time. Judy says it defies explanation.
Actually, it was different this time. The first time it was a real howling sound. And actually, excuse me, I thought it was an airplane that hit the house. And now this time it was just more a real strong wind sound. But you could certainly hear the debris because I didn't get the basement door closed when I was down there. But you could hear the glass coming down the stairs and tin and, I don't know, just different debris coming in. But the actual tornado itself, to me, was quieter.
Earl Lane lives on the next road north of Judy Eden. He was watching the news around supper time when he saw hail outside. He went out for a look and called his wife to come see.
Just as she got there, it exploded out into the sky like, pieces, I guess, from some of the other places. And you could see the funnel just going round and around fast. I said, let's get to the cellar. And we just got down. That was it. All went.
I know, almost like you have a guardian angel over you saying, get up, get to the basement kind of thing. Because you just can't kind of comprehend, what you see and actually want to do. Just don't seem to click sometimes.
Both families lost most of what they had worked all their lives for. Hundreds of people joined the cleanup effort in the townships of Arthur, Peel, and West Luther. Many remembered the previous tornado well.
This is actually my 4th tornado, so it was not that big a deal for me. When I saw the actual damage, I was surprised because I didn't think the winds were all that strong and all that big. But they tell me that it was quite a lot more horrendous than they first figured. I live just about a kilometer down there, and all we got hit by was hail. Hail about the size of golf balls is a normal size.
This is more devastating and complete. Some of the barns were partly demolished, houses were partly, but this is total.
As in other areas hit by the tornado, it moved diagonally, southwest to northeast. Here, the trail of destruction stretched for 9 kilometers.
Well, I figured the tornado touched down just on the other side of that house, and it just took a path and went straight through. It didn't seem to touch any of the farms surrounding it. It just went in one complete straight line.
I would say this one was worse. This seemed to be more ground level, and the other one was up higher.
The results had to be seen to be believed. An automobile tossed onto a tractor, sheets of steel hanging from utility poles, hydro towers toppled, and remarkably canceled checks from Arthur Banks came fluttering to the ground in Orillia, 100 kilometers away. Peel Township farmer Brian Henry lost both his home and his livelihood. He was picking up the pieces as best he could. He also lost 30 head of cattle, gone without a trace, when his barn disintegrated on its foundation. Police reported dead stock in fields northeast of the village. At the far end of the tornado swath, Henry and Gisela Seeger saw their dream home turned upside down.
Used to be a bench. We don't even know where it went.
Local MP Ted Arnott joined the cleanup effort while seeking financial help from Queen's Park for the victims.
And I believe that the province will be there to support us if we need that support, and we can demonstrate it.
Mennonites from across the region pitched in, many wearing the black garb of the old order. They are no strangers to this type of work. Shared labor and a community service is a mainstay of their faith. Keith Wagler is Ontario chair of the Mennonite Disaster Service.
Well, we just see the need, and people want to help. They feel that's the least they can do, or share one another's burdens.
Rain hampered initial efforts, but the workers persevered. By midweek, they'd done all they could do, picking debris from fields by hand. Victims say that support has helped make the ordeal bearable.
Just to have them around even is just a good moral support for you, not. But yeah, they've worked hard. You know, rain, doesn't matter what the weather's doing, they're out here helping.
You know, right now, you're kind of still in the daze. I don't think that it really hit us. And you can't think any further than just do what you have to do now.
Cleanup coordinator Jack Benham was the same man who steered the effort here in 1985.
And I think if a wind went through next week, people would take the time and be out here and go again. People just have that inside them that they want to be part of helping one another.
For the Lanes, the loss of 6 gold rings, with memories more precious than the gold, was especially tough. A remarkable piece of luck. The 6 gold rings were found amid these heaps of rubble, thanks to the sharp eyes of cleanup volunteers. Victims hope there is no next time, and some are considering picking up roots and starting again elsewhere.
No, well, I didn't know that I was going to stay here and not again either. If things turn out all right, maybe I will. But I don't know, it'll never be the same because you think of this all the time.
And somehow in the end, you know, we've gone through ups and downs. We'll make it again.
Like I said, you just don't know what the reason is. It's just one of those things you can't explain, but we're going to rebuild and start again and see what happens. But I know if it comes again, that's it. We're out of here for sure then.
Coming up next, the story of one man who was thrown out of his home by the tornado and lived to tell about it.
I'd opened a can of soup, and I was just putting it in the dish, and all of a sudden there was glass flying around my head, and I don't remember anything else.
Efforts from the tornado are in full swing in both the Arthur area and in Williamsford, south of Owen Sound. Drew Ferguson reports on one man who's lucky to be alive after being thrown out of his home when the tornado struck.
It looked like the worst of a local thunderstorm had passed Williamsford, south of Owen Sound, at about 6 o'clock Saturday, April 20th, when, without warning, the tornado hit. Emergency crews first arriving at the scene faced mind-numbing destruction. Survivors were in a state of shock, but thankful for their lives. Jack Sturm and his son Kevin took refuge in a trailer in a barn. After the storm, the trailer was still standing, but the barn was gone.
Oh, the trailer was inside that barn. There's a 60-foot barn on here, and the trailer was stored in there. We were in the trailer when it all happened.
Holy cow.
The roof of that's the part of the barn there. And then there was another barn over there where the car is.
Jim Baker tried to outrun the storm in his pickup truck.
We just saw it come through up here, just like a big black whirlwind, and there's debris and everything just tearing out. Kind of black smoke with it, kind of like, you know. You can see the debris really flying. It was really something. We were really scared.
One man said it was like something out of a picture book. Witnesses described seeing the typical funnel cloud associated with tornadoes.
It just looked like a smoke fire, and then you seen this here funnel happen. A cone shape.
As the extent of the damage became apparent, police set up a perimeter around the areas of the worst destruction.
All non-residents are to leave the street.
An emergency command center was set up at Holland Chatsworth Elementary School. The priorities were restoring power and reopening roads blocked by debris. Despite the horrendous damage, only one person sustained any serious injuries. 78-year-old Ernie Plant was making supper when the tornado obliterated his mobile home. He was thrown into an adjacent farmer's field. 2 days later, from his hospital bed, he says he remembers nothing.
I don't remember hardly anything. I was getting supper, and I'd opened a can of soup, and I was just putting it in the dish, and all of a sudden there was glass flying around my head, and I don't remember anything else.
Where did you wake up?
Well, When I woke up, they were taking me into Owen Sound Hospital here. They found me out in the plowed field about 200 feet, I guess.
The next morning, Ernie Plant's next-door neighbor, Mike Boyven, returned in an attempt to start picking up the pieces of his family home. Boyven, his wife Pat, and their 2 children took refuge in their basement when the tornado came through.
When the thing hit, we were on the top level. I seen it coming across there, and I hollered to the family to get downstairs to get in the basement. And we were right there by that hot water tank. She hit.
What were you thinking?
Thinking, there's nothing you can think. It's just everything's just flying every which way. And it's just, I hope it's just a one-in-a-lifetime experience, that's all.
Boyven suffered bruised ribs and his wife a broken wrist, but their 2 children were unhurt. Boyven was also the first on the scene to help Ernie Plant.
Yeah, I found him up there.
You found Ernie?
Yeah.
How was he?
He wasn't very good shape. He was all hunched over and he's bleeding from the face and stuff. But he's okay.
Yeah, was he conscious?
Yeah, he was.
Flying over the path of the tornado, the extent of the damage is apparent. Houses obliterated, barns destroyed. The tornado touched down just southwest of Williamsford and skipped and jumped along a 15-kilometer path moving to the northeast. Chatsworth Fire Chief Harry Wright, whose crew was among the first emergency services personnel on the scene, says the losses will be counted in the millions.
But there's been, I don't know, at least a couple of dozen barns and houses that are in pretty bad shape. Some houses completely gone, barns with roofs gone and what have you.
Immediately after the disaster, the call went out for volunteers to help with a massive cleanup effort. Holland Township put their emergency plan into effect.
And that allows us to bring in volunteers to help clean up. It also helps if there's any provincial money available.
Volunteers, including a group from the Mennonite Disaster Relief Organization, were quickly on hand to offer assistance. But as the volunteers started the cleanup, it became evident there was not much to salvage.
3 fields over, there's pieces of debris and everything else you can think of. Broken fridges, stoves, you name it.
By the first of the week, insurance adjusters were on the scene to help clients. Cheryl Lepelars of the cooperators said the priority was the immediate needs of the victims.
Oh, we just try to come out and reassure the people that they have the coverage and give them some direction, funds if they need it immediately for any emergency things.
At the same time as the cleanup began, fundraising also started. Holland Township officials, where much of the damage was concentrated, didn't know what sort of provincial or federal assistance in the way of disaster relief might be available, but the local community was prepared to pitch in.
An account that people can make donations. They can make donations at any Bank of Montreal.
A map in the township office shows the extent of property damage with X's marking homes or barns damaged or destroyed. The tornado also felled thousands of trees. Lumber mill operator John Hallman from nearby Walters Falls toured the damage and says about a quarter of the trees down by the storm were too badly twisted or splintered to be of any value other than firewood. But Hallman says this tornado simply uprooted many trees, felling them whole, and he says they can be salvaged for their lumber. Mike Boyven says it was all over in a matter of 20 seconds, but it'll be a long time before he and the others in the Williamford area who saw and endured the tornado will be able to put it behind them.
When we return, how forecasters are using science to slowly unlock the mysteries of tornadoes.
Oh my God, there's a roof flying around. Oh, it's destroying somebody's house.
Activity and have come to learn a lot about their deadly force. Reporter Steve Young now on the latest advances in weather technology that are allowing forecasters to detect severe storms well before they strike.
Oh my God, there's a roof flying around. Oh, it's destroying somebody's house.
This is a look at one of 2 tornadoes that left a trail of smashed houses, battered barns, and splintered trees across south-central Ontario. The tornadoes carved a path of destruction, leveling at least 20 homes and dozens of barns. It will take millions of dollars and months to repair the damage done in a matter of seconds. News Now meteorologist Jay Campbell has been recording and mapping touchdowns for 30 years. He knows how destructive tornadoes can be.
With very strong winds, we are estimating that the wind speeds inside a tornado can be in excess of 450 to 500 kilometers an hour. So very, very strong winds. I've even personally seen straw that has been driven right through a barn board, that the intensity of the shove was so great. But a second cause of damage comes from the very low pressures that are inside the tornado itself, so that as the tornado would go over something, then you have this very, very low pressure, which needs to be alleviated quite quickly, so you get things exploding. So as it moves over a house, the air can't get out of the house fast enough, and so it pushes the walls out or lifts the roof off. So it's that almost an explosion that takes place because of the very low pressure. So those two causes.
The most deadly tornado ever recorded was in 1925. It started in Missouri. Its base was a funnel a mile wide. In 3 hours, it crossed 3 states, killing 689 people. 70 years later, meteorologists have a much better handle on the most destructive weather phenomenon. Tornadoes are born in the clouds, usually in late spring. Warm, moist air in the Gulf of Mexico pushes its way north into the center of the continent. There, it often runs head-on into cold Canadian Arctic air. That collision can sometimes cause severe thunderstorms. Campbell says 30% of severe thunderstorms will cause tornadoes. Although some residents in the Arthur area claim the tornado took the same path as it did in 1985, Campbell says the wind direction was different, but produced the same results.
The thing that has struck me in taking a look at the two situations is that with the ones that have come through most recently, that we have a very pronounced southwest to northeast component to the motion, whereas the ones that came through in 1985 seem to have more of a direction that was coming from the west toward the east. So in other words, in 85, the storm track went through Kincardine, then pushed over through Grand Valley and into Barrie. This particular setup had several tornadoes set up that moved, one moved from close to the Grand Bend area when it was forming and moved up then towards Williamford, and another one then that formed to the north of London and pushed over then towards the Arthur areas.
In a report we aired in 1985, Environment Canada noted severe thunderstorms on its radar on May 31st. Although meteorologists couldn't determine if tornado activity was associated with the thunderstorms, they issued tornado watches 3 hours in advance of the twister. 11 years later, forecasters now have Doppler radar, which can not only pinpoint precipitation, but record a wind profile in a single storm, giving weather watchers more confidence in predicting tornadoes.
With the Doppler radar, we can see not only where the rain is and the intensity of the rain. The intensity of the rain is a good indicator of where we do have some severe weather. But we are also able to focus in on the wind fields themselves with the Doppler radar. And so we can actually see an area that is maybe just starting to form a tornado. And we can see that on the radar, and we can see it happening, so we can monitor it. We can say, yes, looks like it's going to form a tornado within the next little while, and we can alert people then to where it is forming and the likely path that it is likely to take. And again, we were able to do that with this last system that came through. We had tornado warnings out, and our Doppler radar recorded exactly where those tornadoes were.
It's coming right at us. It's coming right at us. I want you downstairs. It's only 30 seconds away. Wendy, go downstairs now.
The Arthur Grand Valley area has been dubbed Tornado Alley. Those who are left to rebuild from the destruction for a second time don't know why or how a tornado could strike the same place twice. Forecasters are also at a loss.
We do have preferred areas within southern Ontario that are tornado prone. I guess that would be a way to say it, even though we don't see as many tornadoes here as they do in the southern United States. We do have preferred areas, even within southern Ontario, and this obviously is in one of those areas.
Campbell says tornado activity peaks at the end of June and early July. There are 3 signs that a damaging twister is going to strike. When the sky turns green, if you hear what sounds like a freight train, and of course when you see a funnel cloud, go to the basement of your house. If you're on the highway, get out of your car and into a ditch.
We had the report of the couple who went into the basement when they saw the tornado coming towards their house. The very safest thing. They went downstairs, they hung on to secure things in the basement. The house is completely gone, but they're still alive. They did exactly the right thing.
In 1985, the twister hit the same general area and killed 12 people. Many people did not hear or heed the warnings. This time, fortunately, no one was killed.
Donations for tornado victims in the Williamsford and Arthur areas are still being accepted at any branch of the Royal Bank. And that's Behind the News for this week. I'm Bob Smith. Thanks for watching. Good night.
Tomorrow's only